What's going on, guys? Balkan Architect here. So a few days ago I was endlessly scrolling through Pinterest looking at images of facades, as I usually do, and I saw this cool facade here that it's like a dark facade and it has these little yellow accent elements, and I thought that's really cool. Why not show how to model something like that in Revit? And that's exactly what this video is going to be all about. I'm going to be showing you how to implement the massing environment and create some adaptive components in order to create this effect. Now, before we get started with the video, if you're interested in massing and adaptive components, I actually have courses on both of those topics on my website, balkanarchitect.com. That's going to be the first link just below the video in the description. So if you're interested, make sure to check it out. I've got over 100 hours of content, and there I take the extra time to go in depth and explain all of these complex topics in Revit. And finally, make sure to subscribe. I make videos every week. I make multiple videos, and make sure to like this video. It does help me out a lot with the YouTube algorithm. It helps promote the video to other people that might want to see it. Okay, so without any further ado, let's get straight into Revit. And here we are in Revit. So let's get started straight, go into models, then into new. And then for the template file, I'm just going to go with my custom Balkan Architect template. And if you want to check out my templates, you can find that on my website, balkanarchitect.com. The link to these templates will be the third one in the description. Anyways, let's just click OK and let's let Revit start right up. Okay, so once Revit starts up and actually lets us work, what I'm going to do is go straight here into the Massing Insight tab. Now here in Massing Insight, I'm just going to turn on Show Mass, and then I'm going to go to In-Place Mass. Now this is obviously going to be modeled as an in-place mass. We can just call it Mass 1, and then here we are in the massing environment. Now to get us started, I just want to going to give us a general shape of this building. I want this to be quite simple. So what I'm going to do next is go here into the rectangle tool. Let's create a smaller rectangle like this here on the ground. Perhaps go to the 3D view. There we go. Hit the escape key a couple of times. We can now select this rectangle, go to create form, and then let's create a form that's, what is this, like 3 meters high? Yeah, that's perfectly fine. And once we now have this, I'm just going to go to set work plane, choose the top plane here. Next, go to the rectangle again, and make sure that the draw on work plane is selected instead of draw on face, just like this. And then you want to create a shape that goes like this. So it's just going to be a little bit larger on top. There we go. I think this looks fairly good. Then we can select this upper shape, go to create form, and now we have the form of our building. Perhaps we can just select this face and just using the tab key here to kind of toggle that selection, kind of extend that a little bit. Wow, that looks quite cool. And let me just select this side. There we go. Okay, so once we have the kind of the initial shape of our building, the next step is going to be to model the actual facade. So what you want to do next is just hover over one of these faces. So you hover over the edge, hit the tab key a few times until the face highlights, then you click to select, and then you have the divide surface. So this is just going to help us create the perfect surface for our facade. Now currently this is divided into a U grid and a V grid. You can see that both are checked here. And then the number, it's just a fixed number, and then that number is 10. Now I like to play around a little bit, but before we start playing around with those numbers, I actually like to go and turn on the actual pattern that I'm going to be using. Now in this case it says no pattern, but I want the rhomboid pattern. So let's turn that on. And this looks fairly okay. Perhaps we can have, I don't know, let's try going to 25 here. Oops, not 35, 25. Okay, 26, that's okay. Yeah, maybe a little less of these. So let's try 7 and then 20. And apply. Okay, this is now starting to look good. And let's say that I'm happy with this. So we do have that kind of the facade pattern, but we don't really have the facade element. And that's the second step. We have to create the facade element. So for that, we have to go here to File, new. Then let's go to family. And here this opens up the English metric. So I'm just going to go one folder back and open up the, or sorry, that was the English Imperial. And I want to open up the English metric. And here you might be tempted to go to something like the curtain panel pattern, curtain panel pattern based. So this is usually what we use. Now in this case, because this isn't really a pattern, it's just going to appear in some cases. Because of that, we're not going to be modeling it as a pattern. We're going to be modeling that as an adaptive generic model. So I'm just going to select that family template and then click OK. And this is what that looks like. Now the next step is going to be to set up 4 points, because this rhomboid here has 4 points. So we want to go back here, go to the point element, make sure that the draw on work plane is selected, and we're just drawing on this bottom plane, and then we have 1 point, 2 point, 3 point, 4 point. There we go. Hit the escape key a couple of times. Okay, so once we have our points created, the next step is to make them adaptive. Now, by default, these are not adaptive. You have to select them, and then here you have the make adaptive. Now, you can go with a cross selection and then go to make adaptive, but the problem is the pattern. So here now it goes from like this, like kind of crisscross when it comes to the shape of placing this. And I actually wanted to go 1, 2, 3, 4, not 1, 4, 2, 3, or 1, 3, 2, 4. Get it? Okay, so I'm just going to go back one step, select the first one, or we can actually start off with selecting 2 of these, go to make adaptive, and then it's just going to make one be 1 and the other be 2. Now we can kind of create our circle by selecting this one, make adaptive. Now that's obviously 3, and then if I select this one, that's 4. So that's kind of an easier approach. And then obviously you can come in and change the numbers here as well if you want. So that's kind of a different approach. But anyways, let's say I'm happy with this, what we have, and I am. So I'm just going to bring this a little bit in, and now let's connect these. So you want to go like this, select 2, go to spline through points, click. There we go. And also you can go here to the properties, because this is still selected. You can turn on is reference line, and now this is a reference line and it's green, so that's obviously better. Just kidding. Anyways, I'm just going to select these 2 points now, spline through points, and then is reference. Same thing goes here. Spline through points is reference, and finally repeat the process here. Spline through points is reference. There we go. Perfect. Okay, now we have to make the 5th point, which is not going to be the adaptive point, but it is going to be, well, up here somewhere to kind of have that pyramid effect from that image that I have shown you. I can show it to you again here. There we go. So it's a little pyramid. Now to create that, what you need to do is you need to select 2 of these, like that, or like this. Doesn't really matter. And then you have to go and create another spline through points, and we can make that one as reference as well. Now once you have this line, you want to go here to set work plane and then set the horizontal plane of that line. Next you want to go to points, and then you just want to place it here in the middle, like that. See, I have this point here. Okay, this was a wrong approach. When you select the point, you want to turn it from the draw on work plane to draw on face. So this is really, really important. Why? Well, because remember how when we used this draw on work plane, see how the point is kind of large and dark? And when we select it, it looks like this. It gets that little gizmo. Now, if I just hit the delete key, and let's try the same thing, but in this case, let's go with the draw on face and place it there. Now, as you can see, it's much smaller, and it looks like this when selected. So this is what you want. This means that it's kind of it's hosted on that line, and it's just going to move with that line perfectly, and it's going to stay there in the middle because it's controlled by the normalized curve parameter, which is here, which is the weird Revit voodoo magic that makes everything work. It's complex mathematics, which I know nothing about. Just kidding. I do explain this a little bit in my course on the massing environment, so check it out if you're interested. But all we need to know for this particular tutorial is that this should stay at 0.5, meaning that this will always be halfway across this spline, meaning in the middle. Okay, so with that determined, the next step is going to be to create a new point, and we're just going to be hosting it on this point. But if I just go here to set work plane, I can set it on the kind of the horizontal work plane of that. So I'm just using the tab key to kind of toggle through work planes, and I want to set it to this. And then again, we go back to drawn work plane, we place it there, and it's going to give us all sorts of errors. That's okay. But now if I select this, I can move it up, and here we have an offset. See? Now if I set this offset to 1000, it's going to go like that. If I set it to 5000, it's going to go like that. See? And also if I select this point and move it up, see how the kind of holds that relationship? So this line now kind of goes at an angle, and then this offset stays the same no matter how much we move this, which is quite cool. I'm just going to go back a few steps because I don't want to mess anything. Come on, come on. There we go. Okay. Anyways, let's select this one and let's set it to, I don't know, let's go 2000. I think that's okay. Yeah, that's perfect. Anyways, now once we have done this, we can select this point, and then let's select point 1, so have them both selected. So hold the control key, select both of these, spline through points, and then you can make it a reference as well. And then repeat that additional 3 times. Spline through points is reference, ignore the warnings because, well, it's safer that way. Just kidding. Anyways, we have just a few more. Holding the control key, spline through points is reference, and we're done. Okay, the next step is going to be selecting this line, holding the control key, select this line, hold the control key, select this line. See how we have that rectangle? You go to create form, and then you just pick the triangle instead of this prism. So this is what you want. Okay, so you repeat the same process, select the triangle, make the triangle. Select the triangle, and then choose the triangle instead of the extrusion. Repeat once again. Oops, not that. Yep, just like that. And there we go. Okay, so once we have this, you can make a cross selection. Go here to filter. There we go. Check none, and then make sure to go with just generic models and hit apply, which is just going to highlight the surfaces. And then you can go here into material, and you can change the material. So I like to go to default, right click, and then duplicate this one. We can call it default 1. Come on. Right click, rename. Yeah, we can call it the color of the panel. I don't know. Okay, so we can now select it, and here I'm just going to change this to yellow, and then the appearance, make sure to duplicate this asset and then make this yellow as well. There we go, looks nice. Okay, apply. And it's still white because we're here in the hidden lines, but if I go to realistic, now it's yellow and it looks cool. One more step that we shouldn't forget is to select the top point, go here and see that offset that we've played around with. You actually want that to be a parameter, so you can play around with that. So you just click on this button to associate family parameter, and you go here and you create a new parameter. So you can call this one the top offset, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Click OK. You can just double check it here, top offset. So yeah, it should be a type parameter, its length, dimension. That's okay, perfectly fine. Okay, apply. Okay, perfect. Next, you want to save this thing, so let's go here to save. I'm just going to save it on desktop, and let's call it our funky panel 1. Why 1? Well, because we're going to have 2. So let's go ahead and save that. For the next step is you want to go here to point number 4, select it, and then hit delete. Now that's going to create something that looks like this, which is perfectly fine. Then you want to select this line here, hold the control key, select these two, go to create form, and then go with this one. So I'm just going to create a kind of half pyramid. And then of course you want to select that panel here, go to material and set it to color of panel. There we go. Okay, so you want to go and save this again, but make sure that you don't click on save, but go to file, save as, family, and then we can go with funky panel 2. There we go. And then I'm just going to close this up. Okay, next you want to go to Insert, go to Load Family, go to Desktop, find those two funky panels, and hit Open. Perfect. Okay, once these are loaded in, you want to go back to Create, you want to go to Component, and then you can go and I suggest starting with funky panel 1, this one. But how do you host it now? It's kind of hard to pick these points. Well, if I hit the escape key a couple of times and select the surface, here I will have the ability to go into surface. Oops. Let's select the surface. Okay, and now let's go to surface representation. And now here under surface, I have the nodes. Now this is what they want. See, when I click that, you get these little points everywhere. See? Click OK. And now we can host things on these little points. They're kind of hard to see from this angle. Okay, now you can see them. See? Now you can go to Create, go to Component, and you can go to Funky Panel 1, select the first point, second point, third point, fourth point. You have your little pyramid. Now it's kind of pointy. Now that's because we have, well, that offset parameter, which we can play around with. So now I can go back into Edit Type and set this to 1 meter, hit Apply. Let's see what that looks like. Still a bit pointy. So let's try 0.7. Hit Apply. There we go. I really like the way that this turned out. Now I can just continue creating these. So I can go back to Create, go to Component, and then I can have a few more of these. Now make sure that you host them exactly on the point and not the surface there, because that's going to be bad. There we go. And you can just go on and on creating any sort of funky shape that you want to have on this building. Now, in some cases, it might accidentally flip to the other side. Now, if that happens, if you select any of these, you get this little flip parameter here, and if you track that, it can kind of flip it around. Now, in this case, it doesn't, but if that does happen, well, you always have that parameter to kind of help you out with that. And then finally, to use the kind of second panel, I'm just going to go here to Create, Component, and let's try that funky panel too. Now here, just be careful, you want to go first from the point here, then to the point down, and then to the point across. So you don't want to mess that up. And in this case, as you can see, it went to the wrong side, and also the parameter isn't set up for the pyramid top. So let's go here in the end. Okay, top offset, what was that, 0.7? Yeah. Perfect, and now you just go here to flip it around. So you can create a bunch of these here. So we can go here to Create, Component. Let's try if I go the other way around. See, so it's just going to depend on the kind of the way or that you apply these. So I can just go, I don't know, start from here. So you can create them like that, like vertically. Now this one's on the wrong side, so let's flip it. Flippity. Okay, there we go. So that's how you create this really, really cool facade. And then when you're just happy with it, you go to Finish Mass, and that is what you have. Let's go back into Edit in Place. Now keep in mind that you can play around with this. You can turn off the pattern so it would look just like this, so it just has those nodes. So you can really kind of play around with this and get the most out of it. But I think it's a really cool way of having like a really funky facade, and then it's really up to you and your imagination on how can you make or get the best out of a facade like this. But that's the general approach of creating something like this. Okay, so that's pretty much it for this tutorial. I hope you have enjoyed it, and I hope you have learned something new, at least about adaptive components and how to use them in models. Now, if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, tell me in the comment section below. If you want the whole entire course on massing in Revit, you can find that on my website, balkanarchitect.com. And then also, if you want the access at this project file or access to any of my project files, you can find that on my Patreon page, which is just going to be the second link in the description. Okay, that's pretty much it, and
I guess I'll see you in a couple of days with another Balkan Architect tutorial. Thank you for watching and have a nice day.